I want to talk about something that's really irritating me somewhat. It doesn't really irritate me. It's just amazing how much BS there is regarding the strength of the consumer. I listen to a lot of radio analysts and on Bloomberg, Wall Street, certain places like that, and they talk about a strong consumer. That's my cat Lazy Bones in the background. I think he agrees as well with what I'm saying. They mention, how bad the economy is and how bad certain things are, and then they make a quick reference to, oh, but the consumer is strong, and then they point to certain ridiculous things as the low unemployment rate and certain retailers, whether it be Target or Lowe's or whoever, reporting decent earnings or sales. I just want to go on record as saying that, look, just because Target manages to figure out how to make some money in addition to Lowe's and some other companies, that's not the consumer. Target has invested a lot of money in terms of tweaking their inventory and getting certain things right at that corporation. But the consumer is not Target, and Target is not the consumer. So make sure you guys understand there are certain metrics that you use to determine the strength of the consumer. And if I were to go on record as saying that the consumer is strong, I wouldn't just say it. I would provide some metrics so that you can understand and I can understand and everyone else can understand what is meant by saying the consumer is strong. If I were to make such a stupid claim as to, in terms of saying that the consumer is strong, I probably would give you guys some metrics. Some of them would be the amount of savings that the consumer has. What is the savings rate? Is it 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%, 15%? What is it on average for the average American citizen? What is the investment activity looks like? Is money flowing into various retirement accounts? Are the major institutions such as Fidelity and Capital One, JP Morgan Chase, what does the investment flows look like going into those retirement accounts, 401ks, IRA accounts, Roth IRA accounts? I would be giving you guys some numbers that indicate the strength of the consumer. But you don't hear that. And I'm listening to these analysts very carefully every day. And in this environment, this pre-recession environment, I'm listening very carefully, and I'm trying to figure out why are these idiots talking about the consumer is strong, and I've been running my own business, and my wife just started the business. We just started a business for her, and most of the customers, when they call me or when they call her, they're not really giving me the impression that the consumer is strong. They're giving me the impression that the consumer is weak. When I talk about, excuse the noise in the background, as I clean my cat's litter box. Anyway, when I talk to these customers on the phone, first they're excited about my products, right? They want to know what it is, what it does, blah, blah, blah. And then I talk about the price. And then the tone of the conversation drops off by 90% because the consumer is not strong. The consumer is very price sensitive. Now, if I were selling garbage on eBay or some obscure website or making everyone discount their products like Amazon, then the conversation would be different because, everybody's discounting themselves out of business and because the consumer is not strong. That means you cannot afford to pay full price. You cannot afford the things that you used to be able to afford 20, 30 years ago when you actually had a very good full-time job that paid you overtime and paid you benefits and allowed you to have a stay-at-home wife, homemaker wife, and a husband who worked and made good enough money to support the 2 or 3 kids, in addition to the stay-at-home wife, and a good education for the kids, and with the 2 cars in the front and the 2 or 3 trips to Europe every year, that is out of the door. So just make sure you guys understand that you need to prepare for the incoming recession, because not only is the consumer not strong. Excuse this noise for a second. Again, not only is the consumer not strong, but the consumer is very weak, and you need to make preparations. Now, my own situation would be a lot worse, like a lot of you guys, unfortunately. My own situation would be a lot worse if I had made some very timely and lucky investments into Bitcoin at the right time, and that helped me a great deal. And so I'm not in a situation where I have to worry as much, but I'm worried about the other people because I have to talk to people on a daily basis, and I'm supposed to be making money from the business. But again, if most of my customers are hurting because of the economic environment, that doesn't help us business owners. So from a business standpoint, that sucks. From an investment standpoint, I'm very lucky and I'm fortunate to have made very strategic investments at a very good time, timely investments and stuff like that. So that's a little bit different for me. But yeah, just want to make sure you guys understand. Make some preparations, pay down your debt, start looking at your expenses. Where are you spending too much money? And if this long and protracted recession goes on 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years or something, sometimes they can go on forever, things like. But anyway, are you preparing for a long and protracted recession? If you're not, then you're going to be doing yourself a disservice, you and your family. So you breadwinners out there, I don't care if it's the men or the women, whoever, if you're a breadwinner out there, you need to make sure that you are prepared and your family is prepared for a long, protracted recession. The inversion of the yield curves, the massive debt that we have, the student loan debt, the subprime auto loans. When auto loan companies or finance companies, when they extend loans out to 5 or 6, 7 years or whatever, that means that they're trying to accommodate not a strong consumer but a weak consumer. When the Federal Reserve talks about changing the capital requirements of the banks, the major banks, that's indication of a weak consumer, not a strong consumer. That means that no one's putting a lot of money into banks. That means they're trying to lower the standards for the banks so that they pass these stress tests. And not only that, the Federal Reserve, in addition to Fannie Mae, is accommodating people and trying to jumpstart these economies. Excuse the noise. When the Federal Reserve talks about printing money and lowering interest rates to the point where they're almost negative, that means weakness, not strength. So, make sure you guys read between the lines. Right now, the interest rates are so low, retirees and baby boomers aren't going to make very much money at all in their savings and investment accounts. And if you pump more money into the economy, like they're doing in Europe and some of the other countries outside the United States, that usually means that they run out of options. As my latest article mentions, the Federal Reserve is indeed running out of options because the interest rates are so low you can't lower them more to stimulate the economy because they're headed towards zero. So the next option is going to be print money. You print more money, you know as well as I do. If you don't, I'm telling you, that devalues your current money. So, again, not a sign of strength. That's a sign of weakness. And what else? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're talking about lowering borrowing requirements. They're trying to make it easier for you guys to borrow money so that you can get a house. But guess what? If you give people the ability to get a house or get a mortgage and they don't really qualify, that house is going to be returned back to the lender, including your hard-earned equity. So don't fall into that trap. Again, that's a sign of weakness, a weak consumer, not a strong consumer. When you lower borrowing standards, we don't lower borrowing standards or underwriting requirements out of strength. You do that out of weakness because people aren't qualifying and you're trying to fudge the numbers or change the way things are ran so that they can qualify, so customers can qualify when they really shouldn't be getting a house. They should be saving money or something, or maybe just renting. So again, look at what they do, not what they say. Underwriting standards put you in a predicament. Subprime loans were associated with the last housing crisis, mortgage crisis, 2008. And if we go down that same path, same thing's going to happen. A bunch of people are going to get loans and mortgages. Even FICA and those guys are trying to change the way credit rating is handled. Your credit rating from FICA, whether they use Ultra FICA or whatever new scheme, if they change that the way credit is evaluated, that's going to lower the standards. People who shouldn't be borrowing, shouldn't be qualifying for personal loans or whatever, if you give those people loans because you lowered the standards from having an average of 600 or 700 FICO score to what, 400 or 300, that means you're allowing a bunch of people who don't necessarily qualify for credit to get credit so that they can borrow money. Again, your own country can't afford to build infrastructure, beef up the cybersecurity for the nation to protect the taxpayer personal data and such, because we don't have the money. Okay, the border wall that Donald Trump promised is not being built because we don't have the money. Congress has to reallocate money from this area and that area just to do the things that we're supposed to do. If we were to have, if we had money, you don't take money from one hand and give it to the other hand and call that new money. That's not new money. That's basically just changing hands, changing pockets or something. So anyway, there are a lot of indicators, you guys out there, that indicate that you guys are in a very weak position. Unfortunately, you fell for the hype. You fell for the bait. You didn't prepare. You didn't educate yourself on finances. You took it for granted that this party that we were in was going to last forever. You took for granted that your employer was going to keep you on the payroll forever. You took for granted that, that fake fiat money that we call the dollar actually had value. You took for granted that you shouldn't sock away as much money into retirement accounts, IRAs and 401ks and such. You took for granted that you shouldn't spend a whole bunch of money on big screen TVs and consumer items and all of that. So now you pay the price, and it's going to be very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate right now, but it's going to be even worse. So anyway, try to prepare. Try to understand what you're up against. Start making preparations. Okay, again, paying off debt. Cutting back on expenses. Learn about cryptocurrencies. Learn about Bitcoin. Don't miss the next opportunity to get real, what we call sound money in your pockets. Get your Treasure wallet, your Ledger Nano wallet. Put your money away in your Ledger Nano wallet or your Treasure wallet. That means when the Federal Reserve or when the IRS or when the tax authorities and everybody comes for it, just confiscate your money from the banks and such, they won't be confiscating your money, because this country is going to get desperate. They're going to be cracking down on where you can send money, where you can get money from, and all of that. But if you have Bitcoin, for instance, you will find out, like I know now, that it's not that easy to take our money. It's not that easy to tax our money. It's not easy to monitor and seize and confiscate anymore because our money is different. Our Bitcoin money is different, way different. We only have 21 million that's ever going to be printed. You can't do infinite quantitative easing on our Bitcoin money. There's only 21 million, and that's it. You can't say that about the Federal Reserve. We use the blockchain to identify transactions and we use that for accountability and transparency. You can't say that about the Federal Reserve. Okay, there's no way they're going to let you see the allocation of all of the taxpayer money and such. And the IRS is not going to send you a thank you note, even though you've been paying taxes diligently for 40, 50, 60 years like I have. I've never got a thank you note. I've never got a statement. I've never got a receipt that says, thank you, this is what we're using your money for. You're helping the country. We appreciate it. And here's something, a letter or something. Just thanking me for being diligent and responsible and all that. That doesn't happen in the fiat world. So again, it's time to stop playing around with the system that works against you and start taking a little bit of risk and see about this other system that is causing so much ruckus out there, the Bitcoin cryptocurrency system that all of those guys are afraid of. When they're afraid of something, whenever anybody is afraid of something, like the financial institutions and Wall Street and government, when they start acknowledging that there's this other system and they seem to be afraid of it, they're afraid of it for a good reason. And you guys need to find out why. Okay? Anyway, I'll let you go. Pay attention. Keep your ears open. And we'll talk later. Bye.